The council meeting. Would you call the roll, please, Russell?
Councilmember Jablonski.
Here.
Councilmember Fisickelli.
Here.
Councilmember Brykers.
Here.
Vice Mayor McKay.
Here.
Mayor Nelson.
Here, we all stand for the pledge, please. Okay, first item is a quasi-judicial item to explain the process and swear anybody in. I'll turn it over to Keith.
Thanks, Mayor. As you are all aware at this point, the Florida courts have ruled that although most of the time you're acting in a legislative capacity, making policy decisions for the municipality, in some occasions, like the one before you tonight, you're actually acting in a quasi-judicial or judicial capacity in which you are acting as judges to make sure that the applicant proves by competent substantial evidence that they have met the criteria of the town's code to get the relief that they're seeking. Their quasi-judicial rules are listed on the agenda. If anyone has any questions about it, please ask before we proceed with the hearing. If there are no questions, what we're going to do is Russell is going to swear in everyone who wishes to speak on this item, and then we will have Jennings disclosures, and then we will start the item. Russell?
So you have to ask them
And,
this.
you can.
Okay. All those who plan to testify during this hearing, please stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you. Russell, could you please read the one quasi-judicial item into the record?
Certainly. This is a resolution and final order of the Board of Adjustment of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving variance application number VA-072-16 by the Archdiocese of Miami for Archbishop McCarthy High School, granting a variance from the Unified Land Development Code of the Town of Southwest Ranches, subsection 060-080, pertaining to maximum permitted height in the Community Facility District, authorizing the mayor, town administrator, and town attorney to execute any and all documents necessary to properly effectuate the intent of this resolution, providing for recordation and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Russell. Mayor, at this time, we will ask the council whether or not it's had any ex parte communications concerning this matter, and we can start down from Councilmember Fisickelli and up. If anyone has any disclosures, please state them at this time.
Yeah, I've discussed this with some residents out west to get their opinion, asked her and my wife.
Thank you. Any other disclosures? Okay. No. Seeing there's no further disclosures, is the applicant here? If you could please come to the podium, state your name, and that you've been sworn in, and understand the proceeding.
Good to be here, Tony Macero. I'm with contractor Paul Flutie. Yes, I was sworn in. We've enjoyed such a fantastic relationship over the last several years with the city of Southwest Ranches. Our school is booming. We need to grow.
I'm going to let you do a full presentation in 2 minutes. Are you going to be speaking as well tonight?
Yes.
If you could please just state your name for the record.
My name is Paul Flutie. I also represent the high school.
And you're sworn in as well?
Correct.
Okay, so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Kadams from the town's planning department. Jeff, if you could please enter the staff report into the record with the summary and state for the record that you've been sworn in and your resume is on file.
Okay. My name is Jeff Kadams, the assistant town planner. I have been sworn in. My resume is on file. I would like to please enter the staff report into the record and just give some very brief background to put the variance application in context. Now, this is a variance application that is before you as an independent item. Variance applications can be applied for concurrently with a site plan modification that would require that variance, or an applicant can decide to request the variance before submitting the plan to find out whether it will be approved before they go into final design and incur additional substantial costs. The applicant has chosen the latter to move forward with the variance first. Some basic backgrounds on the property. Back in 2008, the town reauthorized the 1997 site plan approval from Broward County. That site plan had expired. The remaining improvements were a 2-story, 14 classroom wing, an athletic field lighting, which resulted in a variance request for 60-foot athletic field lighting and the installation of a berm along the western property line. Probably the highest berm in Broward County, one of the highest points in Broward County, from what I know. Bleachers for the football field were part of the improvements that hadn't been constructed yet. An outdoor pavilion, a swimming complex, and at the time they sought to add 5 classrooms for a total of 65. 2 years later, in 2010, they came in to modify the site plan again to show a larger grandstand than was shown in the original 1997 plan, as well as a concession stand. They also showed miscellaneous athletic field improvements that had occurred over time. At this point in time, there was a height variance granted for inches, basically, for a railing on top of the press booth and the announcing booth on the grandstands. This also led to widespread landscaping improvements within the property that brought it up to landscaping code, and a cross-parking agreement with St. Mark's to the south because of the additional seating in the grandstands. In 2011, they came in for a site plan modification for 4 modular classrooms, and those classrooms are now, Russell, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. The gap on the southern, I don't have a pointer. On the southern side of the school, where a 2-story classroom addition was proposed and still is as part of the 1997 plan, there were a total of 5 modulars there. As well, at this point in time, the council granted a 5-year build-out timeframe before this site plan would expire. So that's November 2017. In 2012, they came in for a 7,650 square foot second story above the existing locker room for some classrooms. And in 2014, a 4,800 square foot freestanding locker room building adjacent to the football field and the cafeteria, and demolished a 1,400 square foot pavilion in the process. On to the variance request itself. The variance being requested is from section 6080, which establishes a maximum height of 35 feet. For a flat roof building, it's measured to the deck line. There's another provision in the code that allows a parapet to exceed the maximum height of 35 feet by 5 feet, for a total of 40 to the top of the parapet. The request is to exceed the maximum height by 8.5 feet as measured to the roof deck, with an additional 1.5 feet measured to the top of the parapet, for a total height of 43.5 feet to the roof deck and 45 feet to the parapet. This is the last phase of permanent construction for the school that was shown on the site plan. However, this last phase, as opposed to being 2 floors of classrooms, is now being proposed to be 1 floor of classrooms and a theater above that. And I'll let the applicant discuss why they feel the theater is important. But because the theater requires a much higher clearance to the ceiling, and in this case, involves a balcony, it's pushing the height above 35 feet. Just to go through a few slides here, you can see the area that's the missing portion. The cafeteria is on the left-hand side, and a 2-story classroom portion of the building is to the right of the area where this wing would go. Next. This is just another view showing St. Mark's in the foreground. This is looking from the west. You can see the gymnasium on the lower left, the cafeteria on the lower right. Again, the 4 small and 1 large modular in the location where the final classroom wing is supposed to go. This is looking further from the west so that you can see what's behind the property. We've got the long property that runs side to side. Behind the school is actually owned by the church, and then behind that is neighborhood. Just another view. You can see the berm, the famous berm in the center of the photograph. This is a view looking from the properties that are immediately to the west of the church property, church being the school and the intervening property. The berm is in the background, topped with trees. This is just a close-up, and you can see that beyond the berm, in the center is the grandstand, and all the way on the right, you can make out part of the school, and that's the cafeteria, I believe. And this addition would be to the rear of that. That's just a close-up. This is a view from where you can see the arrow there in the corner. It's looking northeast toward the school, and you basically see the woods in this location that are shown behind the church. Same here. That's the church. That's the church and the school. The elementary school to the right of the trees. Can't see the actual high school from here. This is the elevation from the south. So if you're in the parking lot, that's on the south side of the building, looking at the building, this is what you would see. You can see the lower cafeteria to the left-hand side, the two-story classroom, existing wing that it would connect to the right. Oops, go back one.
Yep.
This is a cross-section of the building showing the first-story classrooms and then the theater on top. This is actually in your packets, but it's just a breakdown of the actual dimensions. You can use that for reference if you need to. First floor plan. First floor for the theater, and then the balcony. I really want to zoom in. Is that the last one? I think that's the last one.
One last one. Yeah.
Okay. That concludes my presentation. It is the applicant's burden to demonstrate by substantial competent evidence that relief should be granted. There are 5 criteria that are listed in the staff report, and you would need to find favor in the affirmative for those 5 criteria in order to approve the variance.
Thank you, Mr. Kadams. Does any member of the town council have any questions for Jeff Kadams at this time? I see Councilmember Fisickelli.
No question.
No
I
question?
got just one.
Anyone have
problem.
other questions of staff at this time? Does the applicant have any questions of staff? Seeing none, we will turn it over to the applicant for its presentation. The applicant for its presentation.
You want to go first?
Okay. Well, as I was saying, we are growing. We're growing school. We're hovering around 1,600 kids right now. And if you look at those pictures that Jeff has posted up there, pretty much the majority of the property and the buildings surrounding it cover it up, except on the south side where the parking lot is, and then St. Mark's, which is owned and operated by the Archdiocese of Miami. Why did we change from a theater / classrooms? Our fine arts program is growing. Currently, they're in 2 classrooms with a small stage. Everybody's battling for the student center where the main stage is. We have dance teams, cheerleading teams. This will also help relieve them and have a place for the dance team to safely practice on a daily basis. We have classrooms. We need them. We've enjoyed such a tremendous relationship. As Jeff mentioned about the berm, remember, it's also landscape. So those trees have grown since over the last 5 years that now are covering up the football field. the lights in the stadium, and being a buffer, as we have discussed in the past. So we are looking to expand, and it's based on our student body and the fine job the administration has done over the last 6-7 years with your cooperation. We could not have done and be where we're at right now without your help and the town's help. And now I'll turn it over to Paul, and he can go into more specifics.
Good evening. I'm going to be a little bit more, I wrote everything down, I'm not going to talk from the heart. As for Archbishop McCarthy, I've been involved with them now for about 5 years, and I'm just going to go through some of their accomplishments and how that is a positive reflection on not only the school, but also on the town of Southwest Ranches. They've been named as one of the top 50 Catholic high schools in the United States for the last 7 years in a row. They've joined 87 other schools to be recognized by Apple Computers as a distinguished school for the past 2 years. These are all national awards. Archbishop McCarthy is one of 12 recipients that received the 2013 Innovations in Catholic Education Award nationally. In the South Florida Business Journal, they ranked him as one of the top 10 schools private schools in South Florida, including other schools like University School in Dover, Southeastern and Davie, and American Heritage and Plantation. So they're Vice Business Journal there. That's academic-wise, they're top-notch. Second thing is athletic-wise, everybody hears about them. They're current 2016 state champions in baseball, men's volleyball, women's golf, state champions in dance, which is what Tony was talking about, and in drama, robotics, football conference champions for the districts and for the region. And all this, every time they mention Archbishop McCarthy, they say Archbishop McCarthy and Southwest Ranches. So it's just a positive that goes everywhere. In an effort to continue their excellence and also become not just in the top 5, but the top school, they're asking for this. There's a couple things that in the original approvals, they're approved up to 1,800 kids. They're a little less than 1,600 right now. So if we do the math, they need 7 more classrooms to fill their original approval maximum total. I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm tired of looking at portables. So we want to get rid of them. And the original site plan approval was to put a permanent 2-story wing in this section. And as Tony said, with their continued growth in other areas, i.e. drama, dance, and things like that on a state level and a national level, the theater/auditorium, and I'm going to refer to it as an auditorium more than a theater, is something that's really of a necessity. As much as this school has, it doesn't have a designated auditorium to be used by anybody. If we back out the numbers and we have 1,800 kids, we need 1,800 seats. That's the reason why the theater has an upper loft and a lower. We can only fit right now in that area, and we squeeze it in, 1,500 seats on floor level. The other 500 are on a loft. To create that additional height, we need that separation. So basically what we've decided, or we're trying to do, is get the approval to go ahead and provide the classroom space below, which is 10 classrooms on that floor plan you saw, but then also provide an auditorium, a dedicated auditorium/theater for the school to be used for all their events. Currently, they're using folding chairs in the gym, they use folding chairs in the cafeteria. This will serve a great purpose and actually legitimize the high school altogether. Other things that are in the area, because I understand that the height is an issue, you have St. Mark's, of course, next door, which has a tower that's 80 feet tall right on Flamingo Road, and a bell tower that's, according to their website, 120 feet tall, which seems high. Of course, Jeff added the light poles. I know it's not part of town of Southwest Ranches, and I don't like it either, but across the street you have that mountain of trash that's 70 feet tall. Along Flamingo Road, which is really becoming, unfortunately, a commercial, especially that side of the road, a commercial facility area. You have Temple Beth Emmett, which is also tall, Potential Church, Franklin Academy, and Pentecostal Church, all within the same 4 to 6 block range, north and south on that side of the road. The one advantage that this school has with that facility, as shown in the pictures, is sort of surrounded in a courtyard, basically. It's surrounded by buildings around it. It's surrounded by a landscape buffer on the south of St. Mark's. And I did a quick measure, and the closest residential property is about a little over 1,000 feet to the west of that location. The berm, everything they've done to help that try to hide or mitigate any vision or sound things from the football field helps with this, and it makes it sort of a unique situation. It's almost enclosed and surrounded by landscaping and other buildings, so that the facility itself is sort of private from everything around it. I guess that's all the technical stuff I have to ask or add. I don't know if anybody has any questions about it for myself or Tony. But
Thank
it is
you.
something that will make the school, as I said, legitimize it and take it to the next level.
Thank you. Does any member of the town council have any questions of the applicant at this time? Councilmember Jablonski?
Yeah, I have a few. A couple things predicated on if we were to grant this. Where are the portables going?
They will be gone.
As in removed from the property gone?
Once the build,
Once,
go ahead.
correct. Once this building is in place, the portable classrooms will be eliminated from the site.
Okay. A couple numbers that were thrown out. Your current student population is 1,600?
1586 from what I saw tonight.
Okay, and your max cap is 1,800?
1800.
And you're requesting to build a 2,000-seat auditorium?
It's, by the time we're done, when you do ADA and stuff, originally it was 2,000 seats. Right now, it's more around 1950. By the time I'm done, we're done adding the required handicap seating and stuff. We lose seats. You're probably going to end up somewhere, a final number around 1,900.
Okay, and in your backup, your letter, it states 2,000.
Yeah, because the original plan was 1 in 2,000. But the more we get involved in the seating arrangements and code requirements, you start eliminating things for those areas.
Okay. Another question I have is, do you have adequate parking
Yes.
for this? Would you have to add parking?
No, we just, the last site plan we did, which was for the parking lot, the locker room, on that sheet, they did the calculations with all the parking that was required, and I actually printed the table off that sheet. For the, they calculated it, this is a copy of it, for the 1,800 total maximum students. Based off of that, they needed 537 spaces. Their current count is 628. So right now, I have an excess of, or 626. I have 89 additional spaces over the maximum that we require for the 1,800 students.
So you have 90 more than what you need
Correct,
upon build-out?
correct.
Okay.
Currently existing.
All right. This might sound a little far-fetched in Florida.
Sorry.
Can you go down?
We thought about going down. It's an option, but it's financially not feasible if we can build where we are right now with matching the finished floors to the existing buildings. Going down is always a possibility, but then you incur some pumps and probably an additional 10 to 15% of the overall building cost to make that happen, because in Florida, we don't have basements because they'll flood, and that's the same thing.
That's why I said living in
Right.
Florida. Yeah, but indulge me for a second, I'm not a builder.
right.
How deep can you go?
We would probably be able to go 2 or 3 feet at the most.
Okay,
I mean, I'm picturing buildings like the Frost Center UM where they go down before they go up. They only can go down 2 or 3 steps, because after that, you're under the water table.
okay. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Mayor. What have you done to communicate to the local residents in Southwest Ranches and Sunshine Ranches your plans and to gather from them their feelings on this?
With regards to the variance in height, the only thing we have done is posted a sign out in the front on Flamingo Road.
So you haven't gone to their HOA meetings or anything like that
No.
to,
No, we haven't.
any reason why you didn't do that?
The purpose of the variance is to see if we can actually go into we're going to have to go to a site plan and plat note amendment and stuff like that if we approve for it. And the reason for the variance is because, as Jeff said, to mitigate the overall cost of hiring a design team to go into full construction drawings, we want to know if we can actually do it the way we're looking at, which enables it to be, yeah, it's a little taller, but it doesn't take up, it's not as wide, so it doesn't stick out of the parking lot. When we go to, if this is approved at this level and we go to the design phase, I would recommend to the parish that we go around the adjoining neighborhoods and put flyers out or invite people in for basically like a town hall conversation so they know what we're looking at, what we're doing, and get their input. I typically advise that to any, because I also work for the diocese and other parishes as an owner representative, and I typically advise that of all parishes to involve the community in what you're doing so they sort of take ownership into it.
All right. I'll tell you personally, I'm pretty disappointed that you didn't do that. Because once the variance is granted, should it be granted, then with, the horse is pretty much out of the barn at that point. So I'm pretty disappointed that you chose not to take that route.
Okay. I appreciate your position. I mean, we just thought we would have to go through that process if we can get to site plan approval. But I understand your
Communication is
position.
never a bad thing.
I
You
understand.
can't over-communicate. You can only under-communicate.
No, I understand, and they don't shy away from it over there.
Sir-
No question.
Okay.
Doug has a question.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, the maximum over what we have now is, what are you asking for? Is it 8 feet or 10 feet?
Well, explain, from what Jeff explained to me, your maximum is to the top of the deck, the roof deck. So it's,
It's 35 feet right now, I
right,
think.
so the top of the deck would be 8.5 feet, I guess, and the top of the parapet would be, from what I understand, the top of the parapet's 5 feet over your maximum allowable limit for parapet heights, 8.3 for the deck over the maximum flat deck roof height. One of the things about the building is that all of the mechanical equipment is actually housed in the building as well. So there's nothing else peripheral, nothing on the roof, nothing on the ground. Everything's actually located in the building facility itself. So to answer your question, the deck, I guess, is 8.5 feet over your maximum allowable limit for the roof deck and 5 feet for the parapet height over your maximum allowable.
Okay, Keith, I've got a question. If, on something like this being CF related to residential, obviously, we don't want to set a precedent in any way in taking action like this, but would that make any difference for us?
A variance needs to comply with the 5 requirements of the code. You need to reread the 5 requirements of the code and make sure that all 5 are satisfied. If you find they are, then the variance, and you find they are by competent substantial evidence from the applicant's testimony, then you can approve the variance. Your judges, if you do not find that all 5 have been satisfied, the variance must be by law denied. So a variance stands on its own because every application is going to be different, showing that the criteria is satisfied. But that being said, you are well aware historically that rights, there's one variance speaking about rights of adjacent property owners, et cetera, that they always use adjacent variances as a grounds
To approve the next one?
to try to seek further approval. So hopefully I answered that as politically correct as possible.
Okay. Have you all thought of any compromise anyway, whether it's going down or up or anything like that, or you're just here trying to see?
If we have to, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. So we can, if need be, we will push it off to a later date and revisit the drawings and figure out how we can minimize it and try to fit it all in. The last resort would be going down, of course, but it's always an option.
Well, I want to say up to now, you all have been very good neighbors. The stadium lighting thing has been working for us, and the permission and all that kind of stuff. So, and you all have done a bang-up job as far as promoting the school and turning out
And it's
some
part of the
great
reason why we
students.
unfortunately like you said, didn't talk to the local residents. But I think instead of, like Jeff said, you can go for the whole thing or do part of it, I think that's why we're sort of, call it like testing the waters with this. Because instead of going through the whole design process and saying no at the end, I'd rather find out no now and go back and revisit it. To where when we do come in, everything's okay and everybody's satisfied. So,
Okay.
We are open to revisiting it. One of the things that was not mentioned, being an athletic director, we do need a place to have our pep rallies. Our gym holds 1,000 people. It's tough to have separate pep rallies. So we're looking down the road to use this theater/classroom facility as a place that all the kids can congregate and enjoy what our spirit leader does, because she does a phenomenal job.
How's the baseball team doing this year?
Baseball, as Paul said, baseball's are state champs.
they're number 3 in the country.
Yeah. The boys volleyball team won it for the first time, and the girls golf team won it for the first time. And the football team won their conference. But we are very happy where we're at in Southwest Ranches. It's been awesome. We will do what we need to do. There's no doubt about that.
The only other issue is my son went to school there for a very short period of time, but the traffic in the morning getting in and out of there when you don't have the same police is a little problematic, to
See,
say the
the
least.
only time we, not to interrupt, the only time we don't have it on a regular basis is during the summer school. During the normal school year, August through June, we do have BSO. The only time they're not there is if there's lack of communication from our school to their scheduling, or they get called. But there's generally, in the main entrance and the north entrance, BSO directing traffic.
Yeah, problem is when they're not the same people and they're new filling in,
Yeah, they gotta-
they're not on
train
the
'em.
same sync. You know, it's when you have the regular guys there that do it, that it runs pretty smoothly, but when you get somebody new and somebody goes on vacation, it's a cluster, you know what.
Sure.
But anyhow, just a heads up on that.
Freddie, and then I'll get back to you, Steve.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the time that we can speak on it. Well, I'm not asking questions. I would like to speak on it. Keith, is this the time?
No, what we'll do
Okay,
is,
I'll wait for
this is
that
just
time.
questions to the applicant, then we'll
Okay.
open it up to the public.
Thank-
One more quick question, and tremendous school, wonderful accomplishments, both academic and in sports. We have had and continue to have a wonderful relationship. And obviously, that's an attraction to the town of Southwest Ranches. Obviously, people evaluate and take a look at schools and the quality of schools and outstanding school. Just one quick question. I know this 5-year build-out plan expires in November. Is any other additional phases? I don't even think it's possible. Anything else that you're planning on building or expanding?
The only thing
In the
that's
future?
built in the future, which was on the original approval site plans, was a pool facility.
A pool? Pool facility.
If you look on the original site plan, it shows a pool and I think 2 or 3 tennis courts in what is a practice field right now behind the new locker room. And that's the only thing that is, at some point in time, probably coming down the pipeline.
Okay.
But with the success of the drama and dance teams and the necessity of the extra seats for classrooms, this has become the priority.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff,
Freddie, I'm sorry.
just I don't know whether you're aware of it, but to my knowledge, your school is the only school within on land controlled by our town. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the situation. So, you know, one of our prime purposes is educating our kids. So we appreciate what y'all doing and for that.
Thank you.
Any other members of the town council have any questions of the applicant? Seeing none at this time, we're going to call up any member of the public who wishes to address this variance. If you wish to speak on this, so if the applicant can please move out of the way for a minute. Anyone who wishes to speak on the variance, can please state your name, address for the record that you've been sworn in, and you will be given 2 minutes to speak on the item. So we'll just give Russell 1 second to reset the clock, because I know you'd like to start early.
Okay, Newell Hollingsworth, I have been sworn. My question is very simply, is this variance, does it cover the entire property or just this one construction project? And that I would like to see only on this one construction project for the simple reason that I would like to see anything that is going to be done on that campus to come back before the council and basically inform the town of what's happening with them. I am definitely in favor of anything for the arts, and I believe, based on their past experience, that they'll have a superior arts program there shortly. And we'll probably see some of the people on America's Got Talent or something like that. Because a lot of people come from South Florida that are on those programs, if you've noticed. There's always 2 or 3 that are in the top 20. So I expect to see some of their people there someday. Anyway, my one question is that, is it a blanket on the property or is it just on the construction project? Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob Hartman, 5441 Southwest 198th Terrace. I have been sworn. I feel the same way as Newell. I certainly support the school, the programs there. The fact that they're going to expand their arts program tickles me because where everywhere else it's being cut, I'm glad to see in some quarters it's actually being expanded. I'd recommend a stipulation, though, because I heard some numbers that concern me. They have parking for roughly 600 plus cars. They now are intending on building out seating for 1,900 people. Now, for all the educational uses, I'm enthusiastic. I wouldn't want to see this become a concert hall for fee, bringing in orchestras, bands, et cetera, to raise funds, et cetera. If this is strictly an educational facility, don't charge fees. If they're going to do a school show or something like that, that's one thing. But I'd hate to see that parking lot spill out, or they're renting parking somewhere else to bus people in. Let's keep everything concerning the school within the school's boundaries. And if there's no fees available, if there's a stipulation in the variance that they can't charge fees for use of the facility, then I think it accomplishes that goal. Thank you.
Astronaut, 5480 Southwest 178th Avenue. We have had a really good relationship with Archbishop McCarthy over the years. However, and it's very difficult to say no to them, but I am just wondering if the classrooms couldn't be built over the part of the parking lot and have the auditorium on by itself and this keep us within our height limit. Because once we start going up, we never know where it's going to stop. So I was wondering if they could consider that as part of the project. Thank you.
Hi, Dee Schroeder, 5501 Thoroughbred Lane, and I live in Sunshine Ranches, and I've been sworn in. I think this is great. I'm a huge advocate for the kids. If they're inside in the theater, on a soccer field, a baseball field, guess what? They're not hanging out at the Shell gas station or Calusa Corners or anyplace else. Those are idle hands, is the work of the devil, and their hands are being occupied. And if it'll better the school, it's our one big bright and shiny star in our town. And I'm proud of them. I know so many kids that go there, and every single one of them love it. So remember that. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. John Eastman, 188 Avenue. I'm sworn. They predate the town. They've been here a long time, and they are an excellent community partner. We have community leaders that have graduated there. I mean, they put out a fine product, and I would ask the council to bend over backwards to help them with this. And, you know, all schools have auditoriums, and, you know, if you walk in an auditorium, you got curtains, drapes, they're up pretty high to get the rigging and everything. So give them grant them their variance here. What they're doing is in the middle of their campus. You know, no one's going to see it. No one's going to notice it. Newell's point was good, you know, just grant this one thing, and if they want more somewhere else, let them come back. But really, if you drive down the road there, we have a lot of frontage there. There's no residential. They're not bothering anybody. Right across the street is, you know, it's industrial, it's warehouses. So the height restriction is not going to affect anybody that lives in the area there. And there are no objections from any of the residents that live in the neighborhood there. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Any additional comment?
Sandra Farrow, 13840 Mustang Trail, which also happens to be in Sunshine Ranches. Great comments, great questions, everybody. Thanks for your questions and support. Just to follow up on the parking, I was wondering again, that does sound like low parking, and would there be any ability afterwards to request a multi-story parking lot like American Heritage is now building, and there are several at Nova, but of course that's for the university as well. So I just wanted to see if that is in any works or possible at all, because that would not look really appealing. And also as, to just make sure that all the other options have been looked at in terms of where to put the classrooms. Because again, just thinking about it logistically, and I'm sure they have plenty of architects, but getting up into the auditorium after and having all those classrooms below seems a bit cumbersome in terms of ingress and egress of thousands of kids. And so from a fire safety or anything like that, Are there any considerations in terms of building it on top of classrooms as against on the bottom? And lastly, as Vice President of the association, I invite the gentleman to come and speak at our meeting anytime. Better late than never. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public wishing to speak on this item? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Does the applicant have concluding comments? And actually, let me turn over to Jeff first, because then I have some legal questions that I want to ask. Jeff, do you have any concluding comments?
Just answering one question that was asked. Does the variance, would it apply to the entire property or just the building addition that's been discussed? And the answer is only the building addition that's been discussed. That's all I have.
Right. Is the applicant, I guess Jeff's done. Does the applicant have any concluding comments?
I was gonna try to address some of their quick questions if I can.
Please.
With regards to parking, if you heard Jeff earlier, is a concurrent. With regards to the parking question, Jeff mentioned earlier is an agreement between Archbishop McCarthy and St. Mark's for overflow parking. So in the event that the current parking facility at Archbishop can't handle the amount of parking spaces, we have that agreement with them next door to keep it within the two properties. Second of all, our intention is also not to do two major events at once, i.e. let's have a football game with a couple thousand people and let's have an event in the auditorium with a couple thousand people. And that probably won't happen anyway because usually they're the same couple thousand people. So those are those issues. As regarding the parking garage and the parking lot, it's been mentioned, but at the right now, it's not feasible. We have enough adequate parking for it. So we're going to use what we have, but it has been brought up that if we end up getting to the point where we need to, it will be considered. And again, we'll have to come back in front of the town because that's not on any site plan. Any other questions? Oh, your question about two separate buildings. It relates to the parking. If we take up the parking spaces, then we will not have enough space for parking.
I think if we put above the parking space, so in that case, you wouldn't go the height limit. If you put it, you have parking underneath as it is now, so you just put above the parking, the classrooms.
I don't think that would be a feasible option. So what we try to do is minimize the ground impact, the green area impact, by keeping it in a building, and in doing that, we had to go up. Again, one of the other options is to revisit it if we have to. We will shelve it and revisit it and try to get it somehow either through the going down or wider. But as you can see in what Jeff posed, and Jeff, I don't know if you can pull up the floor plan where you have the seating and the stairs and stuff going to help her. We sort of tried to keep it in that courtyard effect, so that it limits the amount of visibility from around surrounding areas instead of going wider. As for egress, and she mentioned about putting the theater on the bottom floor and the classrooms on the top, the classrooms are used every day. So we want those to be as accessible as possible. The theater will be used on a as-needed basis, theater/auditorium, but there are multiple stairways on the outside of the building, as well as wide, broad stairways on the inside of the building, and the footprint includes a 3-story elevator, which will allow you to get from the first floor to the second floor. So as for path of egress and things like that, as you mentioned, there's enough ways in and out of this building that they will never have a problem. Okay? And again, when it goes to, if it goes to site plan approval and it gets into design documents, then all that stuff gets tweaked and finalized. Okay? I think that's the last thing I have to say. If anybody has any questions, you got anything to add?
I'm about to turn it over to council, but there were a lot of things stated, and if this does get approved, I'll have to put in the resolution. So I just want to go over a couple stipulations and see what you agreed to and what you didn't. So if you just give me 1 second. Jeff already clarified that it's just this structure. You agree that the height variance is just for the structure?
That's correct.
If you could just state it in the microphone so that we can.
Correct.
Okay. You've stipulated on the record that when this structure would get a CO, all remaining portables on the property will be removed. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. You stated that the auditorium, the theater, will be limited to 1,900 seats.
We don't have the final seat count, but my best educated guesstimate is it's going to be around 1,900.
So could it be much more than that? Or?
No.
So would you stipulate to saying it's 1,900 seats?
We can make it 1,900 seats.
Okay. A resident asked, and I didn't know if you agreed to this or not, is this limited to solely for school performances?
That's our intention.
Are you stipulating that this is solely limited to school performances, not for profit?
Well, school performance can be for profit as far as outside entities coming in.
Well, you could sell tickets for a
Right,
school
right,
performance. So
right.
the question is this for a
We're not
solely for
looking for- we're not looking for
non-paid
to make-
school performances?
Correct. We're not looking to bring in a band and sell
As a
seat
concert
as a
Okay,
fundraiser.
That's not answering the question. The question is this solely limited to school use?
Correct.
For school
Yes.
performances?
Yes.
Okay. And it's only open then during the school year only, correct?
Well, open house is not during the school year, but they may use the auditorium because open house has 1,000 parents show up with their kids in the summer for open house events. So it will be accessible during the year, but its majority of the use will be during the calendar school year. But like I said, in early August, before the school year starts, they have open house. And instead of all the folding chairs in the cafeteria, of course, they want to use them in the auditorium.
And just familiar with schools, got a little bit of knowledge anyway. It's not uncommon to have your drama clubs and some of the editors to utilize, the auditorium and the theaters during the summer months.
Right.
In fact, it's really common practice. We're over there right now, our band and our drama club, quite frankly, are there now. So I would venture to say, at least from my perspective anyway, that it gets used year-round.
Yeah, and the school itself is very active all year round. They really don't have downtime.
Okay. And when we approved the fields and the football field, the town was given use rights. Is the town given use rights for this as well?
Yes, they would be.
Okay. And then my final thing that I heard was on parking. Did you all do any parking analysis on if St. Mark's was open for a service or school was open or other things, and this was open too and having a performance, whether or not all those uses would have sufficient parking?
We haven't done a parking study per se, but based on the simple numbers,
Then based on that, would you stipulate that this will only be utilized when St. Mark's is not being utilized and the other elements of the school are not in session? Because from a legal standpoint, what I fear is you have a football or baseball game going on, you have a school performance going on, and St. Mark's has something going on, and you will have no place to park on this property with 600 spaces or whatever you
I
have.
did see a note on a previous approved site plan where it said it wouldn't be used in conjunction with another large site event. We can make that stipulation for this as well.
That comes with communication between us and St. Mark's. I think that's what we have for football as well.
So as long as,
Yes.
because I know we didn't do a parking analysis, because I asked Jeff that.
Right.
So I just want to make sure on the record, we can tell the council and the public affirmatively, because it came up, that essentially, if this 1,900-seat auditorium is being utilized, the other heavy uses, St. Mark's and the other fields, et cetera, will not be utilized during the same time,
For major events, I would.
for events.
Yeah, I would say you're okay with that.
Carnivals would be a good example.
Yeah, for any events, is
Right.
what I'm saying.
Correct.
They might be doing a pep rally.
Correct.
They might be doing a pep rally or something.
Okay, Mayor, I've gone through the stipulations that came up on the record, and if this gets approved, the motion would be subject to those stipulations. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the council. Just as a reminder, to approve a variance, it must be found consistent by competent substantial evidence with all 5 criteria of the town's code. Mayor?
Thank you, Keith. Council? Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow up on a couple of comments that were made, first of all, I want to be clear that you all have been outstanding neighbors, and we've been real proud to have you part of our town. And it's always good, it seems like it's always good news coming out of Archbishop McCarthy High School. So we really appreciate all that you've done. I am disappointed, as I said before, that there was not more community outreach there. That's really important to us, that the community is aware of what's going on, they're not surprised by it, and that they have the opportunity to kind of weigh in and give their thoughts. I think you'd be surprised the number of times the good ideas and the things that they come up with that have a positive impact on the final final project. So it sounds like you'll be following up on that with the site plan, and I would
Meeting with
encourage.
her.
Yeah, and I would encourage you, frankly, even though it may be a past event by the time you get there, I would encourage you to go there just to let the folks know what's going on. Even before you get to the site plan, just to let them know about this, because that's important to us. But you all have been great partners, and appreciate all that you do. So it sounds like the residents that are here don't really have any serious concerns, which I didn't really expect, but it's important to have that communication. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any other members of the
Yeah,
council
over
wish to comment? I'm sorry, Gary.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a couple of things. I'm really on the fence with this, and it's because it's 10 feet, not because it's 2 or 3 feet, and we need that to make this work. You're asking for a whole nother story. I'm really on the fence with it, and I haven't seen anything that's positive other than our great relationship that we have with you guys, and we've had it throughout the years. But you're still asking for a very large height increase.
Well, we're
And
asking for.
You're asking for 10 feet.
8.5 feet.
Well, 10 feet total.
Pretty much.
Yeah, 10 feet total. That's a whole nother story. And, I'm coming down as not supporting this because it's just too much, in my opinion. It's just too high. If it was 2 or 3 feet, under 5 feet, and they needed a parapet wall or something to this effect, I could see that, okay? But they're putting on a whole nother story, a whole nother group of people that are coming in there. And that's just going to keep building. It's just going to keep going. And we're going to have, something else that's going to come in that's going to want that possibly on the same property. And, we've already granted it once, but we may, get it again. And I'm not really, I'm not 100% with this because it's so much. It's 30% higher than our code. Not just, 5 or 10%. It's 30% higher. And I'm not real, I'm not supporting it right now. It's probably the best way to say it. Since we have to come down, yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'd just like to kind of follow up on Councilman Jablonski's comments. I also, coming into the meeting, was very hesitant about this for similar reasons. I'm wondering, and that's why it was critical for me to really hear a lot of resident input on this. Frankly, my impression at this point is that the majority of the residents out there that are anywhere near this have no idea that we're discussing this tonight, and that we're making this type of decision. To be honest with you, I have strong reservations. To be honest with you, I'm leaning towards voting for it, but I have strong reservations about this because of the size of the height variance, but more so because the residents out there, I don't feel really are aware of it and have had the chance to weigh in on it. I would feel much better delaying this for 60 days to allow some presentations to Sunshine Ranches, to allow them to have some time to first, if we go to the next meeting, I don't know how much time they're going to need to let their residents know that this is coming. So I think the Sunshine Ranches HOA is going to need some time to kind of get the word out that this is going to be something that's going to be discussed, and then have a meeting where you all can kind of let people know what's going on, hear from them what the thoughts are, and then pick this up in a couple of months and actually do the vote. I don't know what you.
So what you're saying is they need to vet it more.
Yeah.
Properly, because
Yeah.
this is really coming as a surprise to a lot of people.
I think so.
Is it, let me jump in here if I may. Aren't you guys required to send a mailing out to the neighborhood within 1,000 or 1,500 feet?
Yeah, I don't think there's any homes within that distance.
Yeah, there's no homes within
Okay.
that distance. The
All right.
closest property line is
I mean,
1,000.
Well,
that's the good thing and the bad thing. The
Yeah,
good
yeah,
thing, because there's
listen.
nobody close, but the bad thing is nobody knows this is happening.
Here's the catch. I concur and understand both of you guys' position on that. I'm not quite as gun shy about it, and the reason I'm not is because the conversation we're having at the comp plan board about allowing that many feet out on US 27. I mean,
We haven't
this is
voted
a
on
whole
that
separate
yet.
thing, I know.
Voted on that
But a lot of us has been involved in that meeting on discussions about how we're allowing and how to make it happen. So, for me, because it is a quality grade A school, and they've been a fabulous partner and neighbor with us, and have stuck by the agreements that they've had with us, and the residents are here telling you, and the berm they did, and the people that live behind it that we've even talked to, or employees or work there, whatever, but still, so I don't have an issue with it. I have an issue with the communication with the community, like you do. They're actually having an HOA meeting next week. Sunshine Ranches
Yeah, which is my point. I don't think there's enough time to get the word out there for that, so that's why I'm saying 60 days.
Yeah, does 60 days kill you guys?
No. No.
Okay, so we could table this, say, for,
August, September?
I don't know, somebody tell me a date or meeting time or whatever, just so we can.
August 25th.
All right. How would that be for you guys?
I would be much more comfortable with that.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to table this to August 25th
At 7 PM.
at 7 PM.
I'll second it.
And just for direction, to give the applicant the opportunity to meet with Sunshine Ranches and the neighboring.
All right, to allow them to meet with the Sunshine Ranches neighborhood, maybe get some other information or whatever, and come back to us.
Is there any way for us to get a list or a scheduling list of those dates? Because we'll attend most of those meetings between now and then. So those who don't show up at the second
Yeah,
meeting.
contact Andy
first,
Burns, he'll give you all the information.
Okay.
We can give you whatever you need.
If you can just get it to myself or Tony Macero, and we'll make sure that we're there. Okay?
Good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we get a motion and a second to table. And again, wonderful relationship. It's important that not only the school's reputation I talked about before from an academic and sports perspective, but that relationship is so important in the community. It's always been fantastic. You've agreed to the stipulations. We appreciate that very much. But there is lack of comfort up here with regards to communication. And as you know, you need 4 votes to get this approved. Quite frankly, I don't have an issue or a problem, but I'm certainly going to respect how the other feel, and I absolutely agree and concur. I mean, I'm inclined to support it as well, but if you don't have any issues or problems coming back in 60 days and communicating that information to those HOAs and let them know what's going on, I'm sure that they'll probably be receptive and won't deem it to be problematic. But as Steve said, and I agree, communication is a key. It's better to have too much than not enough. You can never be criticized for not passing along information. So,
Mayor, I had one other thing I'd just like to ask. If you would come back with with your police duty in the mornings and afternoon on that traffic, because that's a huge issue, because I've been stuck in it both ways a lot of times. Like I said, when you have the right guys there to do it all the time, it runs real well. But when you don't, it's huge. I mean, the traffic's backed up past Griffin Road at times. I know you guys get there really early, so you're not stuck in it, but anyhow, so I don't know if there's a way we can maybe tweak that or maybe get another duty guy or something, but.
What I can do is ask our staff security, when they do go to BSO, because it goes through their scheduling director, for lack of better words, if they can send more of the same people that are familiar with the traffic flow, that have done it. Ironically, one of the police officers is a graduate of Archbishop McCarthy. And he comes back to high school every now and then when he's out there. But I can relay that message on, and I do thank you for this opportunity. It's always a learning experience, and I appreciate all the kind words that not only that you as a council, but the families behind me, because it's a great experience to watch these kids represent this town. Because as you know, when we do win a state championship, boys volleyball, Archbishop McCarthy, Southwest Ranches. And it's a joint effort that we're able to be here and get things done. And we are open to the 60 days. That's not a problem. The communication, being in my shoes, I understand that completely. okay? But thank you so much.
Wait, one more comment, Gary.
Yeah, just one more question, because Doug brought up about the BSO detail. I thought we passed an ordinance a while back that required anybody in the town to use the Davie
It's a state
PD
road. I think-
or
I guess it's a state
something to that effect. Do you guys recall?
You know, Flamingo Road's a state road. It's a traffic issue, and as long as they get it done, I don't care how they do it. So whatever's the best. If we have an ordinance that requires it, then we'll have to
Yeah, I
present them
thought
with it.
I thought we actually had that as part of
think
a
so.
contract, or
we do.
is that
Andy can
enforceable? I
look
mean,
into it.
Yeah.
Keith?
Okay.
I actually think that one of the approvals may say they use the town's law enforcement provider. I think at the time that was approved, the town's law enforcement provider was BSO.
Right.
But if the council wants to make it Davie, it can make it Davie. It's up to the council working with the school.
The dilemma right now with that, if you throw that in the middle of this wrench and you've got a handful of guys that with the sheriff's department knows that flow of traffic, you're going to mess it up so bad for months and months and months, you're not going to know what hit you. So it's a cluster, you know what, if we throw that wrench in it, but we can talk about it.
Okay. All right, we got a motion and a second to table to a time certain. I think you said August 27th, is that?
25th.
I'm sorry,
August 25th.
August 25th.
At 7 PM.
Okay, got a motion and a second for that. Call a question, please, Russell.
Councilmember Jablonski,
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli,
Yes.
Councilmember Brighters.
Yes.
Vice Mayor McKay,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, we'll see you on the 25th.
Thank you.
Good to see you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mayor, up next is public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. The rules of public comment are in the agenda. Tonight, we have 4 speakers. Does anyone else wish to speak on public comment? If you could please turn your cards in now.
Sorry about the clicker thing.
Mike, are you the only one left? Yeah. So just fill out the card so we can start. Okay, the 4 public speakers, with Mike being the 5th in order, is Vince Valletta is number 1, Newell Hollingsworth 2, John Eastman is 3, Barry Nunzig is 4, and Mike Hanley is 5.
Vince Valletta, Sunshine Ranches, the Southwest Ranches, Mayor, Councilman. It amazes me why we have ordinances when you call code enforcement and they say that they cannot or they will not enforce the ordinance unless there's a complaint filed. The other comment that I have is that there's not enough interest in the council about this ordinance that warrants any expeditious movement. To get to the point, I don't have any objections about my neighbors trying to dispose of their property, but I do have objections of the realtors and the brokers putting their signs in the road right away. And even then, I don't have much of an exception if it's just off the fence line. But the abuse, when it comes right up on the edge of pavement, you have these signs right, almost like billboards on the edge of pavement. And I believe that the code enforcement should not have to have a specific complaint for a specific area when it's quite obvious where the signs are. And I'm not going to go around town and say where they shouldn't be, but they should not be in the road right away, and they should not be along the edge of pavement. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Newell, followed by John Eastman.
Newell Hollingsworth, 199th Avenue. In 2009, this council passed a drainage plan that consists of 3 phases. Phase 1 was completed out on 195th, 196th before the recession hit. Phase 2 and 3 was put on the table. until such time as funds were available. When funds started to become available again, I was told by our town engineer, whose name will not be named, that phase 2 and 3 would be taken care of in the next budget year. When phase 2 and 3 came around to be approved, you had some grant money that was attached to that, unless you passed it that evening, that Thursday evening, Friday at 5 o'clock, the grant money disappeared. So you had to approve it. And this is not this last March, but the year ago March, with a $69,000 cost overrun. And phase 2 and 3 was not the phase 2 and 3 that was proposed and passed in 2009. Well, he added phase 2, which was the pipe between 195th, 196th, into it, but phase 3 was not taken care of. I was told by the town engineer, whose name will not be named, something like that, that it would be in this year's budget. Well, he disappeared in December, and we have a new town engineer who has to live with what he inherited. Phase 3 is the connector pipe between Frontier Trails and 195th, which will give the same drainage capabilities that the rest of 195th, the west side of 195th, and 196th have. Right now, the water backs up on their properties, and just this evening I was talking to one of the residents that lives there, and says they have a foot of water in their backyard after the rains and everything, and nowhere for it to go. Well, this pipe into the end of Frontier Trails, and it's only about 200 feet of pipe that's still to be done with a head wall at the end on the east side, is not in the budget this year. So I ask this council to live up to what it has already passed and to give the people that live on the east side of 195th the same consideration and the same ability to have their water drained. May I continue? As the people that live on the west side of 195th have. That is right. That is what you said you would do. And it has been procrastinated and blitherized and masked up and other projects put in there for what phase 2 and phase 3 were supposed to be. I asked this council to put it into the budget. And I don't care where you get the money. Bottom line is, it is something you said you would do, and since 2009, you have not done it. It is time you did it. And that is what I ask for each one of you, to instruct the administration to put it into the budget this year and get the project done this year. It is time. Thank you.
John Eastman, followed by Barry Nunzig, and final speaker is Mike Hanlick.
Hi, John Eastman, 188th Avenue. Just a few items. Next week, we're having Florida Power and Light rate increase hearings across Broward and Dade. The big day for Broward is June 28th. There's going to be a morning meeting at 9:30 down at the Government Center, and then an evening meeting at 5 p.m. In Pembroke Pines at the South Regional College Library. FPL is asking for a 27% rate increase. They have huge dividends they're paying their stockholders. They've made huge profits, over $1 billion. There's no rational nexus for asking for a 27% rate increase. It's an incredibly inefficient company the way it's run now. I don't know if you noticed the blast of commercials we get on TV daily telling us how great they're doing. I wonder who's paying for all that airtime. For a public entity to be advertising with that sort of a budget just shows how inefficient they are. We've had a hardening project on Griffin Road that they've upgraded 3 different times, wasting huge amounts of money. They never seem to check with the traffic people on, well, is this road going to be widened? Well, maybe we'll just put the poles 30 feet over so we don't have to come and do them again. They did tremendous damage to our infrastructure when they were out doing the work. They come and they change poles and they leave the old poles up for years till we have to complain to no end. The smart meter deployment was a total nightmare in our town. Anyway, they are not a good public partner, and I hope that the public will go out and fight this rate increase. I know they always ask for the moon, they don't get as much, but our Public Service Commission is not appointed by the voters. It's appointed by the governor, and they tend to take care of the utilities rather than the ratepayers. So it's important that we all get out there and put our 2 cents worth in and try to stop this. One other item I have a question about. I was kind of out of the loop for a while there, but there was a fire behind a gentleman's house. His garage barn burned down, and apparently the volunteers were on site, and they were told they couldn't fight the fire, and Davey was having problems drawing water out of one of the wells. I don't know the whole story. I don't know all the facts of that, but we're paying all this money to these volunteers. It should be incumbent on them. If they see a building burning, why do they have to ask anybody's permission? Deploy your hoses and go put your water on the fire, you know? It's common sense. If they're there and they have the assets and Davey's having issues, why let the guy's property burn up? So there should be an investigation into that and find out whose fault it was. I asked Barry about it. He said even a very small O-ring hole will prevent drawing out of those wells. You know, any piece of hose or equipment that's not sealing absolutely perfect will allow air in, and you never get the water up. So, you know, it's perceivable that they had an issue like that. We're not trying to assess blame, but certainly if the volunteers were there with water in their truck, they should have been out putting it out. We had another mass shooting event. You know, these gun-free zones don't work. And I see it right on the door here. I can't bring my weapon in. You know, the only way you can stop these events is to have good people with guns taking care of these active shooters. And we know in that nightclub, if just probably 2 or 3 concealed weapon people had been in there, it would have ended right away. Traffic on 188th continues to be out of control. We need to go to positive zoning enforcement for commercial operations at residences. We need to stop all these businesses and their abuse. It's gone on long enough. We need to allow code to go out and start citing these people with all the vehicle parking. And I mean, it has just gone way over the top, and you know, it's ruining our lifestyle. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Barry, followed by Mike.
Good evening, Barry Nunzig, 163rd and Sterling. Steve, I like what you said, more conversation is better than less conversation. Mr. Mayor, I'm really disappointed in you that...
Understand the process, Barry, and I'll explain to you when you get finished.
You know something, here's the deal. This is my time.
Understand the process, okay? If you're going to criticize the process,
I am,
understand.
I am, and you're burning my time.
Okay.
Okay? The taxpayers pay for the volunteers. We have a right to say something about what goes on with the volunteer fire department. If I was sitting in your seat, I would never stop anybody from asking a question or putting in a comment. It's our tax dollars, it's our town, it's not yours. It's not your job to protect, it's not your job to protect the volunteers, it's your job to serve the people. We, the taxpayers, are the people. Just take that and think about it a little bit. Think about who you're supposed to be dealing with. Now, I'll get to some of my points. Marty mentioned something about the Fair Labor Standards Act. Is the volunteer fire department in compliance with it? Okay, do they know what the bright line test is for volunteers? Yes or no? That was one of the questions I was going to ask. I don't know if Marty knows. Do you know what it is, Marty? Okay, never mind.
Marty, no, I'm not going to debate back.
Well, I'm just trying to, okay, tell you what. Instead of doing that, I will just take the information I have, then I will send it to the Inspector General, and then he can follow the process to find out if the volunteers are following the federal law. Apparently, you're not interested. Okay? That's one thing. The next thing is the volunteers are not running like a professional organization should. They run 2 vehicles on initial response to every call. There's not another fire department in the county or in the state or in the country that does that. They should be brought up to follow the same standards as any other department that's out there. This is part of your job as being the board of directors for the volunteers. This is what I wanted to speak about when the volunteers were here, so that you could possibly ask a question. Ask Lee Bennett the question, did Broward County run 2 emergency vehicles to every call on initial response? He's going to tell you no. If they didn't do it, why does he do it? We all know why he does it. He does it to artificially have numbers so he can come to you and go, look how many calls we ran. When in reality, if he was following the best procedures that everybody else follows, he'd have very little, if any, calls at all. And I still cannot find one call that the volunteers went on that Davey is not responding to already. All they do is go to the same calls that Davey's going to. And yes, Mr. Mayor, you did say one time at one of these meetings that the volunteers are not needed, and Davey could do the process by themselves without the volunteers. It's on record.
It's on record by a lot of people, including the town of Davie. Barry, just for clarification, just so you understand the process, we're very familiar with how you feel about this. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. This thing was debated by the board. It was approved by the board. It would surprise me if you weren't there advocating against it. The board of directors really is ministerial. My suggestion to you, Barry, is when we convene as a council as part of the budget process and these concerns that you have regarding the budget part of it and how it relates to the expenditures of the volunteer fire department, that would be the appropriate time, because we either approve those expenditures or we reduce them. So I just want you to understand what the board of directors' responsibility is with regards to being ministerial. Okay? I'm not trying to cut you off, and obviously you had an opportunity during public comment, and we hear you loud and clear. So, any other public speakers?
Mike.
Mike? Sorry, you're the last one.
Mike Hanley, 205 Avenue. Today, I was on my way to an appointment with the dermatologist, and I decided to go out Griffin Road to US 27 and go north on 27. I was on Griffin at 2:05 for a 2:15 appointment in Weston. And as I got to the intersection of 27 and Griffin, there was another major accident there. I remember, you remember when they had the T-bone accident with the guy that was the shooter in Hialeah. This one looked worse. I don't know the outcome at this point. It was at 2:03. I was about the third car to arrive in that intersection, and I had a 2:15 appointment. I saw one car in the northeast corner of the road off the highway. The second car had done a 180 in US 27 and was facing south with no front end on it. The other car the whole side was smashed in. There were people trying to get people out of both vehicles. I went around it and headed north. I don't know the consequences of this accident. I heard the sirens and I saw the police in my rearview mirror. I'm concerned about Franklin School being in there and Griffin Road only being 2 lanes. And I'm also concerned for my own benefit that my road 205 only has one exit, and that's Griffin Road. If they put all these people that are going to come to Franklin High School, which is imminent, it's going to be difficult to get in and out between 6 in the morning and 6 in the evening. And I went out at 2 in the afternoon, and here we were. I hope it's not one of your students with a parent going back and forth to school, Mayor. I don't know who it was, but it was 2 beautiful brand new vehicles that aren't anymore, and there's pieces. And I tried to find out on the news whether anybody was killed or destroyed, but I didn't have any success, and maybe we'll know tomorrow morning. But it's another issue. I think Griffin Road needs to be expanded. We put the rails in, but they're not all the way down to Bonaventure, and it's still 2 lanes. And I'm experiencing a lot of people passing me right by the dam on those 2 lanes. That they're going pretty daggone fast, and I'm concerned for my own welfare. And I would like I would like to have that damn gate removed off of 2-5 so I can at least get out to the south. But I'm afraid probably school traffic will come out through 205, through Pines Estate, and then come up to the school. I don't know the solution, but I'm presenting the problem to you all. Maybe you can come up with something. But I'd like to see Griffin Road expanded, regardless of whether Steve likes it that way.
Thanks, Mike. Mayor, there's no further public speakers.
Thank you, Keith. Item number 5, board reports. Any members of the boards wish to comment or update us on any news regarding your boards? Seeing none, board comments are done. Item number 6, council member comments. Gary.
Yeah, I'll be brief as usual. You know, we had a recent tragedy in Orlando. You know, I don't want to be glib and say, you know, heart prayers go out. Of course they do. Everybody was in shock running around last week, and you know, it's a scary situation, and hopefully we never have to experience something like that down here. You know, it was really scary. You know, all of us were riveted to the news, and you know how easily that was accomplished, and hopefully we don't have anything like that down here rather. One thing I would like to mention is I'd like to thank Broward County for the speed on the guardrails out west of Bonaventure. I travel up and down that 27, and I was going exactly at 2 o'clock today. I was going to be coming up 27, and for some strange reason I took the turnpike. So, you know, luck being what it is. But 2 or 3 times a week I come down from the west and to see the progress of the guardrail project. And Broward County has put in horse crossing signs. I think they're still in the process, so it's not finished yet. And all brand new signs, east and west, going back and forth. I don't have an exact count. I know Emily is working on it, and Ron, our engineer, is working on it. And but I'd like to thank them for the speed and the more importantly, the communication. We've been asking them for horse crossing signs. We asked them for to modify the ends to make it safer for horses. They have done that. They've put rubber bumpers on a few. I don't know if they're all done. I haven't been able to see them. I've seen pictures of them you know, for the safety of the horses. You know, have they completed it 100%? I don't know that at this point. But I just want to thank them for what they've done, and they've been very receptive, you know, for everything out there. And like I said a few meetings ago, you know, everybody needs to reflect on why those guardrails are there. And I'll tell you what, I'll have a great feeling every time I see a major dent in that guardrail, because I know it stops somebody from going another 10 feet over and then into the water, you know, and once you're in the water, that's it. You know, it's seconds after that. And so we all need to kind of, you know, reflect on that, you know. I know there's a portion, I think, opposite 195th that's still being worked on, you know, but it looks good. And they've gone, you know, above and beyond to accommodate, so I want to thank them for that. And that's all I have at the time.
Thank you, Gary. Freddie? Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a number of things that I wanted to touch on. Just make sure I go through them. First of all, Griffin Road expansion, Mike, just to be on the record, I've been on the record in the past that while personally I do like it the way it is, I'm on the record in the past, I continue to be on the record that I support the widening of that road. Where there's no other option, it's the only safe thing to do at this point. So let me just be clear. I have stated it before, but I'll state it again, that we do need to widen that road. I support that widening of that road, and have been that way sooner rather than later, absolutely. Just to follow up, Gary, on your comments also, that the rails are doing good. There is that one section right at 195th, the road where my home's at, but that has not been completed. That was because they were actually doing the widening, putting in a turn lane there for as part of the school Franklin Academy going out. That was one of the stipulations, that they had to put a turn lane in on 195th. I don't know how that was chosen out of all the roads that they could have put it on, but it was, and it was going on at the same time. So that project is complete. I spoke to Andy. It sounds like the rest of that guardrail is going to be put up pretty quick now that other section is done. Still touching on that same area, I want to just connect a couple dots here. You all probably connected them when you heard it as well, but let me just connect a couple dots. Archbishop McCarthy has 1,500, 1,600 students. Flamingo Road is a 3-lane road, and at sometimes it gets backed up all the way to Griffin. Franklin Academy is going to be about 24, 25, maybe 2,600 students, 50% more on a 2-lane road, and yet somehow the traffic count said it's no big deal. We can handle it. It's absolutely outrageous. It's ridiculous. It goes beyond logic into the world of bizarre, and unfortunately,
It's going to be bad.
it's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. It's going to be really bad for our residents, and it's going to be really bad for people that are, think they're going to the great new school and find out what they're really doing is going into a great new traffic jam, trying to get to school and trying to get home from school. So it's ridiculous.
And
But
Pine residents are going to be significantly impacted as well. Steve.
yeah,
Well,
yeah. It was a bad decision all around. I don't know why it was. I think I do know why it was made, but it wasn't for the public good. That's for sure. John, I just wanted to mention that as far as that fire incident, there has been an ongoing investigation of exactly why that occurred. I believe actually that investigation is over. I'm not an expert on the findings. I did hear the findings, but I'm not going to weigh in on a response. But I would encourage you to perhaps spend a few minutes, talk to Andy. He's got the original documents and can give you a little bit more. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter whether it's the volunteers or any other organization, that when the commander on site tells you to stand down, you got to stand down. There's no, you can't, it's not an option to have individual initiative at that point, which was a shame, which was a shame.
But you see the lunacy of that whole thing.
John, we're not debating back and forth here.
And they got water
John.
on site.
So, and then
John, we
the other
agree
thing-
with you. We're not disagreeing. We hear you. You're frustrated, and we hear you, but we can't debate back and forth the audience.
The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I want to be very careful how I mention this, is I'll just put it this way, that I appreciate Newell's feedback regarding that drainage project. I can't really speak on it. It's in my backyard, so I'm one of the, but believe me, and we're welcome to, after this meeting's over, if you'd like to take a tour of my backyard right now, it would be welcome to see it firsthand. But I do appreciate that. It's an important project. But beyond that, I'll leave it to others to take it up or not. And then the final thing I wanted to do was we've had an opening on the drainage board, and I'm pleased to say that we have a volunteer to join the drainage board, a guy that I'm excited to see join the drainage board, and that's George Morris. I think he's going to do a great job there, and he has some great professional background there, but he's also been just a great member of our community. So I'm excited about that as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, couple of things. I'm going to jump right to Newell's comment and whatnot. That whole thing he talked about got modified, changed. Rod has inherited it, and it's clearly not his problem, but it's his issue to deal with at this time. I would like the rest of the council to support me on this. I would like that specific pipe in that project added in this year's budget and funded to get done, because it got changed. It didn't get brought to this council. We weren't told about the change. The guy ran off on his own and made these changes, didn't tell anybody. We all learned about it after the fact, and here it is years and years later, and it was supposed to be part of that other project and should have already been done. And I know Steve can't say anything and can't participate because he gets a benefit from his backyard, but it should have been done, needs to be done, and I would like to see it in this year's budget as getting funded and not taking the $100,000 out of the drainage district fund to make that happen. So I would like you guys to support me because I'm going to push forward during the budget process here to make sure it's funded and gets done.
And I'm sure Barry will be advocating to take funds away from the volunteer fire department. Okay, I don't have any comments. Obviously, Andy, you and I had a conversation by the update on this compromise that was reached and some time constraints. Well, I know that the majority of this, I should say, I think it's unanimous, that very hesitant, skeptical with regards to the increase. We have to approve an ILA, this ILA by October the 1st to be able, if it passes, to be able to share in that revenue. But Andy will update us up here in just a second. That concludes council members' comments. Item number 7, legal comments.
Sure, Mayor, I'll be brief. In regards to towns, Pembroke Pines, we have the deposition of Angelo Castillo next week. As this matter heads closer and closer to trial. Final depositions that will be taken are probably Sam Gorin, Ryan Greenberg, and a CCA official, and then we'll be ready from our standpoint for trial. The court still hasn't ordered ICE to testify yet. It's sitting before them. We still believe that we have a good chance on that, and we're waiting to hear back on that one. The court similarly still has not ruled on CCA's appeal, and that normally takes 6 to 8 months, and we're still waiting for that. Doesn't impact the town at all, except for it might be an interesting outcome nonetheless. I know Andy's going to speak a little bit about the surtax, but because I'm before him, I just want to mention 2 things because I have been following it. Whether or not the public approves the surtax is going to be an issue for the public. What's going to transpire is there's going to be 2 items on the ballot seeking a tax increase. The reason why is because one is the county-sponsored transit tax, and the other is going to be the municipal surtax. Pursuant to an interlocal agreement between the county and the cities, both have to pass to be adopted. If one passes and the other one doesn't pass, they both fail completely. I personally believe, and I've made my position clear to county officials and city officials, that when you have 2 tax increases on a ballot, it's very unlikely that they're both going to pass because that would be a very interesting feat. But regardless of that, and whether or not you as a person on the commission or the resident would vote for the item that's going to come before you prior to October 1st, it has to be approved by September 30th, is going to be an agreement with the county that all it's going to say is that in the event the electorate approves both measures, that the town is entitled to its funding through the approval of those measures. It does not in any way, shape, or form say that you support it. In fact, the resolution is clear that the town's not taking a position on the matter, but it just entitles you to your share in the event the electorate adopts it. Failure to approve that ices you out, and if the electorate adopts that, you will not receive any revenue from the adoption of that item. So I just want to make that clear because I know a lot of people are not, especially in the town of Southwest Ranches, are not in favor of the item. So I just wanted the council to understand when that comes before you, you're not actually approving or supporting the item. You're just saying that if the electorate approves it, that the town should receive its portion. Other than that, I have no further comments, Andy, and I'm sorry if I jumped on your comment on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Keith. I am going to touch on that as well. This is, we've updated you all on a regular basis on this. It's certainly been a roller coaster to watch the negotiations and the discussion back and forth between the county and the cities that are involved with that They finally came to terms yesterday. I'm not sure what the odds makers would have put on them coming to terms because it sure didn't look good. But what they did was the county with the cities that were present yesterday came to an agreement that there will be, as Keith said, 2 different ballot initiatives. One will be a 50-cent tax on infrastructure and one on transportation. Should it pass for years 1 through 20, the 50% on infrastructure would go to the municipalities and the 50% on transportation would go to the county. In years 21 through 30, 70% of the total dollar would go to the county, 30% to the cities. So that was the agreement that was reached yesterday. You may have seen in the news, a lot of cities are having special meetings and emergency meetings this week. Those are the cities who had passed a resolution in support of this, who are now rescinding that original motion based on the action and the agreement that was come to yesterday. We don't need to have that discussion because this council did not consider that, did not pass that item. And as Keith said, we will be bringing you the interlocal agreement sometime between now and I'll say the first meeting in September. That is not, shouldn't be perceived as an action of this council that you would be condoning that tax or that you would be in favor of that tax. But should it pass, and our 7,500 residents are a very small piece of the almost 1.9 million people in Broward County, if this item does pass and that sales tax is going to go on goes on the ballot and passes, our residents are going to be paying that sales tax. So this is, you're passing the resolution is just to ensure that should it pass, that the town of Southwest Ranches will receive our share of that. So it's certainly not an advocating in favor of this. We're just protecting the town's interests should the electorate of Broward County choose to pass it. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Another item, I just wanted to update you, there's some buzz in the community, and I've spoken with you all individually about this, that the city of Coral Gables may want to donate a rescue unit to our town. And I've heard from some residents who have said, jump on it, get it. Lee Bennett has reached out to fire in Coral Gables. I have reached out to and have spoken with the city manager of Coral Gables. We're trying to get more information. At this point, as I sit here, I really don't know what the offer is, if there is an offer. There was some discussion out there. We would like to have, certainly service records on that truck. We'd like to know what's involved, what the equipment is, what terms and conditions might be attached to that donation. None of that information has been received by us, despite our efforts trying to obtain that information. So I will certainly keep you all updated on that. But as you know, I know there is some buzz in the community on that. There's certainly nothing concrete at this time, but we are trying to pursue it. We're trying to run it down. And last but not least, staff is working very hard on Founders Park, which is the old Trailside Park over behind the CVS. As you all know, we have a private sponsor who will be putting up some funds on that. Staff is anxious to get started on that and would like to kick that work off during the current fiscal year. We don't have money in the budget, but we do have private revenue that are going to come in towards that. So what I'd like to do is just get a consensus from council to accept that donation and for staff to be able to proceed with that project. Okay. Let the record show everybody's nodding their head yes. Okay. That's it. That's all I got, Mayor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. All right, item number 9, resolution, just for the record, please, Russell.
A resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving the first modification to the agreement with Markham LLP, approving an additional 3-year term, authorizing the mayor, town administrator, and town attorney to enter into the first modification to the agreement and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Russell. Marty?
Well, I'll just jump in real quick, Mayor.
Okay.
The agreement with the town's auditors allows for an extension on their term. Marty is recommending an extension at this time, and then if the council chooses to put it out for bid after this final extension is approved, it gives the town the time and the ability to do so. So it's here for your review.
Council?
Thank you, Keith Legal. Yes, as Keith mentioned, this is a extension agreement. We're dealing with the option years only. In that regard, Markham has provided us with two options. Obviously, they're anxious to continue the relationship. They have a long-term relationship with us, and I just wanted to remind to council that going back to 2011, they were ranked as the highest ranked proposal at that time. The first agreement is obviously the most cost effective and the cost saving. And, in accordance with best practices, some of you have asked me, well, is there a need to go outside and to do professional solicitation? Well, believe it or not, since 2002, there is no maximum number of years recommended by the GFOA national organization. In actuality, I'm holding the best practices in my hand right now, that they recommend a minimum. There's only a minimum of 5 years, and they recommend that any multi-year contract, including extensions, be afforded, and then go out and seek a competitive bid. So in that regard, rather than to be having to go the auditor to go back on a year-to-year basis for the extension years, he offered us a rollback all the way back to 2013, a 3-year rollback, which in effect gives us the 2013 rates. We're looking at potentially, and staff is recommending to go with option 1, which would enable us to save up to $31,026 for the full 3-year period. And then after that period of time, we'll either enter a new contract or go out to competitive bidding. That's all. Thank you.
Marty, you cleared the room.
Thank you, Marty.
Exciting topic.
Yeah.
Exciting topic.
Important one, though, that's for sure. All right, council, to you all for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Which option are you approving?
Hmm?
Which option are you going to approve? There's option 1 and option 2. Which one are you advocating?
I believe option 1.
Okay. I'll second it.
We got a motion and a second to approve option 1. Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? Seeing no public comment, public comment is now closed. Again, we have a motion to approve option 1. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Councilmember Braycruz.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm a pretty strong advocate that when it comes to auditors, that you get 2, maybe 3 good years out of an auditor. And by the way, I think Markham has done an amazing job here. I think they're an incredible partner. I think they are an exceptional firm. But human nature is human nature. And after you've looked at the same books after 2 or 3 years, you know what? You're not going to find anything new. You're not going to come up with new ideas. You're not going to come up with new recommendations because you've already looked at it. You've already made your recommendations. We've got an incredible financial team. I don't believe that there's any issues out there. I'm not trying to drum up issues, but I believe that we get better based on new people looking at our books with new ideas, fresh eyes, and a new angle. And so I actually don't support this. I have been in conversations with Marty for a while in a friendly way, telling him that I think it's time to change, and my vote is going to be reflective of the fact that I believe it is time to change.
Any other comments, council? Seeing none, again, we got a motion and a second to approve the first option. Russell, call the question, please.
Councilmember Jablonski?
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli? No. Councilmember Braycruz?
No.
Vice Mayor McKay?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes.
Motion.
Item number 10, resolution for the record, please, Russell.
A resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, approving a sole source provider agreement with Kessler Consulting, Inc. for the preparation of the solid waste RFP, contract specifications in an amount not to exceed $49,520, waiving the requirements of the town's procurement code by finding that Kessler is providing a specialized service pursuant to Section 2-215 thereof, authorizing the mayor, town administrator, and town attorney to execute a work order authorizing the scope of work attached hereto as Exhibit A and providing an effective date.
Keith?
Sure, Mayor. It's that time again where we have to go back out for our waste RFP. We were really hoping that we wouldn't have to, but as you're well aware, our waste provider was sold to Waste Management, and as a result of that, our waste fees potentially could be dangerously changed when this contract is over. So we experienced several good years under this agreement, but that's about to change. Kessler was hired through a competitive procurement and did the tremendous job of getting us our last provider by doing a tremendous analysis of all of the waste in the town, bulk trash, everything that they studied, and then they helped us with the bid and got it out. The amount of Kessler services previously and in this time will be included in the contract by the waste provider, so the town actually gets repaid for the cost of the RFP. The only reason that we are even remotely recommending re-giving it to Kessler or sole sourcing it is because of the fact that they have all the data, numbers, statistics, computer programs, everything else run for the entire town from the prior RFP, which wasn't that long ago, unfortunately. And as a result, they can expeditiously and much more cost effectively do a new RFP than if we had to start at ground zero and someone had to do all new data collection and cost modeling for the entire town. So we put this for you for your approval so we can start the RFP process.
Thank you, Keith. Council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any members of the public wish to comment on this item? John?
Keith, what did they charge the last time they did it?
John, did you have anything else if not Marty?
It was the same, compared to about 45,000. However, this services requires extensive, expanded charrette scope of services. So in effect they're including those at the same price as last year.
Like, John, just to give the council an example, because I didn't get into it because the council knows most of this, there's a question in the town whether or not we should be going to rolling carts versus the current garbage disposal method. And the question's going to come at some point to the council and to the general public. If you saved a considerable amount of money on your waste assessment a year, would you be willing to go with a traditional rolling cart that gets picked up without the operator jumping out of the vehicle or not? So there's going to be a lot more choices this time than last time in order to force cost savings for the residents. And as a result, this RFP that they're about to put out requires them to meet with the different HOAs, and we're going to have community meetings to discuss the options and to see what the residents want. So
thank
it's
you.
an expanded scope at this point.
And John, also, the town is going to be reimbursed. Whoever the vendor is, that'll be included as language in the contract, so it's fully reimbursable. Okay. Any other public comment? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Again, council, you have a motion and a second to approve. Any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, will you call the roll, please, Russell?
Councilmember Jablonski?
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli?
Yes.
Councilmember Bright Cruz?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McKay?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes. Item number 11, approval of minutes for the May 26, 2016 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I know you guys read them, so open to the public. Anybody have any concerns about those meeting minutes? Seeing none, and I guess I just got cut off. I've exceeded my time. Again, we have a motion and a second to approve. Russell, call the questions. the question, excuse me.
Councilmember Jablonski?
Yes.
Councilmember Fisickelli?
Yes.
Councilmember Brighters?
Yes.
Vice Mayor McKay?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, that concludes our agenda items. I'll take a motion to adjourn, and I'm
adjourn.
sure that is absolutely